Hello, everyone. I'm Denton Davidson, senior editor for Gold Derby, and I am joined by Jamie Martin, who has won 3 Emmy Awards among 5 nominations for RuPaul's Drag Race. She's also put her skills to work in shows like Below Deck, The Real World, 10 Things You Don't Know About. Jamie, so there's so much heart and joy and drama in this show. What has been the most fun for you about being part of this cultural phenomenon, RuPaul's Drag Race?
Editing the show, always the stories that the queens bring, they always bring so much heart and their selves into it, and being able to showcase that with all these different queens and throughout the seasons is always the most fun thing to do. The other thing that just keeps it fresh is that every season and every show has a different theme, a different tone, and as an editor, to be able to kind of bend and shift in that throughout each season, it just keeps you on your toes and keeps everything interesting. So those are my favorite things working on it.
What's your goal with each episode? Like, what makes you sit back and say, okay, I've done my job, this looks good?
I think my goal and everyone on our team's goal is to tell the stories of the queens like very truthfully and in a way that the audience can really connect with. And so I think when we have those elements mixed in with our competition elements, it only enhances all the competition. I feel like without really connecting with the queens on those authentic levels in their personal lives and their style, the competition wouldn't feel as dynamic. You really have to know where the queens are coming from to know why this challenge specifically matters to them. And so I think when we can connect those dots throughout an episode specifically, that's when I'm like, that one zinged. So that's kind of my goal when sitting back and seeing the episode as a whole, is if everything tracks for that purpose.
And reality TV can get interesting. There's some big personalities, especially on, RuPaul's Drag Race. As RuPaul likes to say, the library is open for reading. So do you ever get frustrated after a show airs and people are like, oh, I was edited badly. They made me look a bad way. What do you think about those comments?
I mean, I definitely, like I said, our goal is never that. We want to tell the story authentically. However, the process of a huge reality show like this is that you film for so long, for multiple days, and that footage just has to be whittled down. So I do understand when people see their actions over 3 days combined into one, how it is a little jarring. I can imagine. I mean, I hate watching myself on film. I can imagine that not being your favorite thing, but like I try to keep in mind that, we are really trying to put something out authentically, and we're not overtly trying to change the storyline of characters. So I understand where those opinions could come from. But I also know that like our show and our team, and compared to other shows that I've worked on, like our producing team so cares and is involved in all of the queens' stories and characters and communication even after filming is done. Like everyone on this team really does care about the queens. So I think you just have to take it with a grain of salt, that everyone can have their opinion on that. But as being involved in the process of it, I know that we really are trying our best to put out what happened in a way that the audience could track and not change the narrative like that.
How much footage do you have when you begin to edit an episode? What's the Cliff Notes version for people like me who don't understand it, of filming begins, this is the episode, you have to finalize it.
Right. I mean, it is definitely a mountain. We have each episode is usually filmed between 2 days, sometimes a third day if there's like a live component to it, like a dance component to it. And those days are filmed like 8 to 10 hours a day, and you've got 6 to 8 cameras going at each time. So it is a mountain of footage that you have to go through. And then on top of that, we have our interviews that are shot on different days. So, I can only be super thankful that we have super talented story team working with us that really, when we are looking for things specifically like that, are able to help us and really guide us where each character's story needs to be going throughout the story arc of this whole season. So that when we have that guidance from our story team, it makes kind of digging through all that footage a bit easier. You know what you're looking for going into it. And sometimes you're lucky and you find things you weren't looking for that are just awesome little nuggets that you want to include too. So that's always fun, looking just through the raw and finding amazing just character moments for these people who, they're just messing around in the workroom, and you have fun seeing them messing around in the workroom and forming relationships with each other, which is really awesome.
And what's the collaboration like then with you and other departments? I mean, how many hands is this touching, and who are you working with to make sure these episodes get out on time?
Yeah, so we start and we have a general rough string of where the episode should go from our story department and our EPs that are very involved as well. And then we take it from there. We edit for pace and tone and make sure that everyone's being represented on the show. And then it's a notes process. It's a notes process between our EPs and our network. And through back and forth on that, we get it to air, which is a hurdle sometimes, but it's really collaborative. But the editors have so much say on this show in terms of like bringing the fun to it. It's a very self-referential show, and the tone is really different from a lot of reality shows I've worked on, and that it's kind of tongue-in-cheek and everything. And so we have to make sure that we're bringing that to our edits a lot. It's a lot of keeping in mind that it's competition and, it's serious, and then kind of cap it off with a sad trombone sound. It's that build, and then, but really remember we're a drag race. So that's like a huge part of our edit process, is making sure that those elements are there throughout all the rounds of notes and getting it to air.
And what are those interview segments like? Are those like taken periodically throughout production, or do they all come in at the end to sort of recap their experience?
Yeah, so they're taken throughout production.
Okay.
They are usually scheduled, for the mornings or the afternoons, or when there's a downtime in actual filming the reality part of the show. And they do have a large interview package at the very beginning to kind of set up who they are and kind of give us an overall feel of who they are just in the outside world. And so we have a large interview day in the beginning, like right before they film. And we do kind of bounce to that interview sometimes to kind of carry us along throughout the season, but it is really regularly filmed throughout the show filming. So it's in the moment stuff that you're getting, they're able to comment not 3 weeks later, they're able to comment within the next day or so. So
what was that Emmy recognition like for you? Not just the nomination the first time, but the wins as well. What was that feeling like? And what do you remember most about your first Emmy ceremony?
I remember being really, really nervous. But I've been working on the show for about 10 years now. And so we got our first Emmy nomination 6 or 7 years into me working on the show. It was really unexpected for all of us. And we're such a small, tight team. Like, it really is a family in terms of our EPs and our editors team, editing team, and our story producers and everybody involved. And so we've always had this kind of like small family dynamic where we all get the show and we all understand the moving parts of the show. And that hasn't changed since getting all this Emmy recognition, but it's so strange to be like, the whole world is now watching our little family dynamic almost. It still feels that same way, where like we all care so deeply about the show and are so involved in every single episode. But like, since the Emmy thing, it has been like, our viewership has gone up and all the recognition. It's been incredible. it hasn't changed our little family dynamic, which is, I think, incredible for this show. Like, I feel like that's a huge part of how it's maintained its style and its tone. But yeah, I remember that first Emmy ceremony being extremely nervous and very surprised and very honored that people in our industry recognized the uniqueness of our show and how much it touched audiences, and how the editing is, I think, funny. I think it's it's unique, you know. So that's what I remembered for the first show the most. Yeah.
Well, Jamie, congratulations on all of your work on RuPaul's Drag Race. Best of luck at this year's Emmy Awards, and thanks for chatting with Gold Derby today.
Thanks.